We've been joined by Tony Hawks, self-styled comedian Tony Hawks, who has also got a new book out, One Hit Wonderland, which chronicles his adventures recently. Well, maybe, why don't I get Tony to explain it?
Yes. Yep, took on a bet, as I have done before.
Yeah.
I had to have a hit record somewhere in the world within 2 years. Because it came about because I'd had a hit record before. I'm sure you remember.
Morris Minor and the
Major
Yep.
Stutter Rap. And somebody
that
said
was
to
such
me,
a bad record, of course. I know knowingly. I know you
exactly.
Yeah.
We knew it wasn't the best record ever made. We knew it was fifth best. And it was like somebody accused me at a dinner party. Well, they said, you're a one-hit wonder, and just being a bit of a pedant and rather picky, I said, well, I haven't finished living my life yet. I'll probably have another hit. And that's how it came about.
So not a very nice thing for someone to say at you at a dinner party, I would have thought,
No, you're a one. Well, some people aren't always nice at dinner parties. It's a strange thing about life.
That's why I don't go to them anymore. It's not just because I don't get invited.
Well.
But Tony, you went on this weird tennis playing sort of jag as well.
Yeah, the bet and the book I did before this one was playing. I had to play and beat the entire Moldovan national football team tennis. So
this was the bet you had with Arthur Smith.
With Arthur Smith, yeah.
And I can't remember whether you succeeded or not.
I did succeed in the end, extraordinarily.
Okay, now is this how you now live your life?
It's
kind of
pretty
bet,
much.
gambit, book.
It's a bit like that, really. A few other little things in between, but that sort of takes up the main. That's the main focus of my life. So I don't know whether we can come up with a name for that.
I don't know what that is. It seems it's almost like there was that book, The Dice Man, which everyone loved years ago.
Yeah.
Until I think they sort of realised this is just rubbish. But I mean, it was where it was this guy. All his decisions were based on the roll of a dice.
Well, I actually played. I was in a play last year in Coventry. I played the Dice Man. Somebody did a play called The Dice House.
Did you do it for a bet?
I did it for hard cash.
But if we were to bet you something, I mean, would you just?
Well, I wouldn't. I mean, a few people say that. I mean, I'd obviously base it on whether I wanted to genuinely prove you wrong, really.
Right.
So if it was something that I thought I could do it and you genuinely thought I couldn't, then I think we'd have. I mean, most of the time I agree with people. Somebody said, I bet you couldn't play Twister with Saddam Hussein.
Yeah.
And I agree with them.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to be taken prisoner. It's not going to be a pleasant experience.
It's not going to be nice for anyone. Let's face it, I don't think even he'd enjoy it very much.
I don't think so, really. And so certain things you wouldn't take on. Whereas if I actually, which happened in the bet with Arthur about the Moldovan footballers, I really thought I was good enough to beat them all.
Yeah.
And therefore, the only way to prove him wrong was to go and try and do it. And likewise with this, I thought, well, I'm not a one-hit wonder. I can probably have another hit somewhere in the world.
Of course, you kind of broadened the scope of your ambition here, because you didn't just limit yourself to the UK or the US, did you?
No. I mean, the difficult. I knew it would be. I mean, let's face it. The music business is getting tougher and tougher. The market's getting smaller. Same number of talented people. But so I thought, well, let's give myself this outlet. So if I'm starting to fail hopelessly, as indeed I was, I could go to smaller and smaller countries.
And so let's talk about some of the singles you've recorded, some of the attempts you made. Which one do you, because the book comes with, I think, do all copies come with the CD?
No, the first 5,000 come with a CD at various outlets.
So you want to try and get a copy of the first 5,000, go and have a look around this weekend, see if you can find one.
That's right.
It's Tony Hawk's book, One Hit Wonderland. We have the CD here.
Yep. Yeah.
Which one should we play just as a kind of starting off point? Which one do you think genuinely had the most chance of being a hit?
Well, I thought, there was one, actually, that was a little minor hit, but I don't want to give that one. Perhaps we should save that one up.
Don't spoil the ending.
I thought there was one that's very poor, so you'll probably want to fade it quite quickly, but it was a Euro anthem called What Does a Pixie Do? And I thought it was genuinely going to be
What Does a Pixie Do? And for
huge
this
Euro hit.
You went off to Holland dressed as a pixie.
That's right, yes, I did.
And you're how old, Tony?
I'm over 40.
Wow. That's something.
That's
a good thing. I always thought that the Village People would have been improved by a pixie.
I think so. I think any number of things you could have added to them to improve them.
While we're on the subject, what is the difference between a pixie and an elf?
Well, this is a huge area. I mean, I discovered they have so many. I know no idea. No one really knows what a pixie is, really.
Well, pixies do, I suppose. I thought, isn't a pixie the kind of the Irish bloke who sits under the...
They love about
that's
you.
a leprechaun.
You're prepared to go off on any tangent.
Well, I'm curious.
No, it's great.
What's the pixie elf
don't
thing?
lose it. Curiosity is a wonderful thing.
I once knew the midget dwarf difference, but I've kind of, it doesn't come up often enough for me to want to remember it, really. I don't meet enough angry dwarfs to say, leave him alone, he's not a midget. Obviously they're not pixies, but because that has a magical connotation.
Pixies and elves are exactly the same thing.
No, they're not.
Okay.
Well, why are they called the same thing then?
Well, I mean, but let's think of an example of things that are called the same thing.
Well, I suppose it's like between an African and an Indian elephant, perhaps.
No, there is a difference, and the ears are bigger.
But they're still
the
elephants.
Africans.
It's the same genus.
Yes,
So
exactly.
we could say the pixie and the dwarf are the small magical folk family.
The pixie and the elf.
Yeah, but one's got slightly bigger ears.
We see there's a whole different countries that have different names for things, don't they? We call it a cat, and the French call it chat.
You can't pin the pixie elf difference down.
It could have been elf, which means 11 in German.
Yeah.
That could have been how many elves there were there.
But pixie doesn't mean 11 in any language.
Well, you say that. Have you researched that?
Do you think we have any listeners there? let's go back to the subject. This is Tony was dressed as a pixie singer. Yes, that's what started all this. But this is what's the single called again?
The single was called "What Does a Pixie Do?"
You see, why didn't you call it "What Is a Pixie"?
Well, in hindsight, there are so many things I'd do differently.
I think, why don't you and I get together and we call a single called "The Difference Between a Pixie and an Elf"? And I'm telling you, that would sell like the proverbial hotcakes.
They're not selling well these days, hotcakes.
They never did.
They never did.
Now, where did that expression
No, you
come
see, you're doing it again.
Okay, let's have this is called "Where Is My Pixie."
I'm the only living pixie, as far as I can tell, but I got no motivation stuck inside my pixie shell. So tell me, what does a pixie do? What does a pixie do?
We don't really want to see all of it, but do you come to a point in the song where you say what a pixie actually does?
No, it remains unresolved.
You leave that hanging. Maybe that's why it wasn't as big a hit as it might have been.
Well, I didn't actually manage to get anyone that was prepared to put it out, so...
But I think if you set up a premise like that, you really owe it to the listener to sort of do something at the
It's
end.
surprising how few record company executives think the same way as you do.
That's what's wrong with the business.
I agree.
You know, I think you set up a question, you've got to at least try and answer it.
I agree with you, but I didn't feel that the public wanted that yet.
But that one did fairly well, you say?
It did nothing at all. I couldn't get anybody in Holland to bring it out as a single. I mean, I was running out of time. I was trying to do everything a bit too quickly.
Yeah.
You know, that you tend to have. And also, I'm not a very good businessman, so I was going into meetings and they were asking questions and I just thought, oh, I don't want to do all this. You know, I just want to have some fun.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I'll think of another idea now and go here. So it was all a bit distracted, and it involved me going to lots of different places.
I suppose more often than they're used to people coming in who have a burning desire to sell their particular brand of music, not just want to settle a bet.
That's right.
Yeah.
And also, it's an area where, you know, there's not a great deal of a sense of humour, really, in the music business.
Especially in the Dutch music business, I imagine.
They think, you know, they do think you're wasting your time, wasting their time, and in fact, in a way you are.
Yeah.
But there are areas of the world where people like to have their time wasted.
A bit of whimsy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which areas of the world are these?
Ireland.
Ireland, okay. And did you try one in Ireland?
I went round Ireland with a fridge, of course.
Of course you did, yeah.
Yeah.
Was that by any chance based on a bet?
It was. Yeah, it was.
Okay.
I did think of bringing one. I would have brought a record out in Ireland and probably still will one day, but there wasn't time with this one.
Do you, if we were to look back at your school reports, would it say, Tony, showing great promise, strange gambling tendency, might want to guard against this in the future?
I kept it from my teachers. I kept it, yeah.
Okay, let's have another track then. This is in the CD that you get. If you buy the book, Tony Hawk's One Hit Wonderland, you'll get this CD with it if you get one of the early copies. And I like the idea of the Norman Wisdom track, because this seems to me, I can see the logic behind what you're attempting here.
Yes, I thought, well, I'm not going to win this. How can I pick somebody who's already huge in a country that's prepared to listen to what I've got to say? And Norman Wisdom is that person. He's massive in Albania.
So they keep telling us.
It's a huge, extraordinary story. Basically, the communist regime there under Enver Hoxha, they played his films 2 or 3 times a month for about 25 years. It was the only kind of sense of fun and frivolity that they had under this terrible regime. They absolutely love him. And I met him briefly in London, and then as he left, I thought, I wonder if I could persuade him to record a song with me. Then a week later, I did Just a Minute, a radio recording and Tim Rice was on the panel. And after the show, I had a beer with him, and I said, look, I'm doing this. You don't fancy writing a song with me by any chance? And he said yes, because frankly, he'd been working with Elton John and the boys from ABBA and Andrew, and I think he was looking for somebody with some genuine talent.
He was ready for whimsy.
He was ready. He was ready for whimsy, and so he said yes immediately, and wrote some lyrics. I wrote a little tune.
Right.
We persuaded, or he rang Sir Norman, because he's Sir Tim, so he can ring Sir Norman.
Yeah, they have there's a directory they give them, don't they, when you get knighted?
Yeah, you get the other knights, and you can call them up whenever you like, day or. And he did. He rang him up. Nearly said it.
Now, was that a bet? Someone bet you wouldn't do that joke on the show.
No, there wasn't
okay.
a bet. No, it's so we persuaded Norman, took him into the studio. He's 87 now, and we got him to do this track that I think he didn't really like very much.
See, that's cruelty.
Well,
You get a man of 87. Let's face it, he hasn't got that many summers
Well,
left.
I asked him. I said, Norman, do you be honest? Do you like this? And he did say, well, it's all right. The words are okay, and I suppose it's yeah. But he didn't actually say yes.
Because his last hit was "Don't Laugh at Me Because I'm a Fool," I believe, wasn't
I
it?
think in 1954. So we think it's nearly 50 years. He's due another hit.
He probably hadn't listened to a lot of modern popular music.
No, he hadn't. By his own admission, he said, I don't like pop.
Although someone I know said they saw him down the front of the Prodigy last time they played live, so maybe we're giving him, the wrong sort of image here. Let's have a listen. Can we have a listen to the Norman? This is the Norman Wisdom track. And what's the title of this one?
I'm Big in Albania.
Of course.
From Scutari to Carizza, from Chiacastra to Barat, from Bologna to Tirana, I'm really where it's at. From the mountains to the Adriatic shore, I give my all until they cry for more. I made my name in many places, 1,000 falls, 1,000 paces, but nowhere's more devoted than Albania, 'cause they've got Norman mania. I may be way off track, but I love Albania back.
Well, in the book, I know, so when you played this to Albanians, they weren't that keen either, were they?
Not really, no. It's not Albanian music, really. But they loved him so much that they still did what was required of them, really.
And what?
Which was to vote. They didn't have to buy records.
Yeah, because the records aren't hits out there when they're due to the quantity they sell, are they?
No, not really. Actually, nearly everything is bootlegged there. So there's no proper record shops. They're the ones that they do have. You go and it's just photocopies of Elton John's records and things like that. So everything's bootlegged. So they had to vote, ring up at the radio station, and it was based on airplay and votes.
And was it a hit?
But they got to number 18.
Well, then that's kind of a hit. So you could say you weren't a one-hit wonder anymore if you want to.
No, I've had a hit in Albania as part of his backing band, the Pitkins, because they all call him Pitkin, because that was his character he played in the film.
It's remarkable that he is, this character out there.
It's genuine affection as well. I mean, you see, old men would see him, and he'd walk into a restaurant with us or something, and people would almost faint. It's I mean, I can't. There's no parallel really that I can think of here. Perhaps a member of the royal family, but
I imagine it would be as if David Beckham rode into a restaurant on Victoria's back while she was carrying Madonna in her arms.
Could be.
Something of that
the difference with Norman in Albania is that everybody likes him. Yeah. Everybody. Whereas there's Norman, whoever you've got, if you take a member of the royal family or something, somebody won't like them much, or there'll be this or that. But everybody likes Norman Wisdom. It's extraordinary.
That is remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah.
You must have spent a bit of time with him then, presumably.
We did a little mini tour. We went out and we toured Albania, as you do.
Did he like a nap in the afternoon?
He did have a little nap. Yeah. I mean, I have to say, he's 80. I was a bit worried. I'm taking an 87-year-old man to Albania with a kind of busy schedule.
Yeah.
But as long as Norman had his little nap,
he
did have to have some dental treatment when we were there. So his crown fell out.
Did anyone have to sign like a consent form for you to take him out of the country?
No, I didn't really think all that through, really.
Yeah.
But he went for it. It was brilliant, and he absolutely loved it because everywhere he went, people worshipped him. Why wouldn't you? You'd like that place, wouldn't you?
I'm now going to basically skew my career towards the Albanian market. Let's face it, it's the only place you've got any longevity, it seems. We've got to go up the news, Tony. We'll talk some more about your other forays into the world of pop after this. 88 to 91 FM, this is Radio 2 from the BBC. The Loving Spoonful there, Somewhere in the City. That is a great track, isn't it?
Fantastic,
yeah.
fantastic.
And no matter how many times you hear it, I think it always gets you going. Unlike many of Tony's recordings, unfortunately, and we're dwelling on that, but, kind of knowing that you kind of...
Yeah, most of them were sort of tongue-in-cheek efforts, really, I'd have to say. But, it was an excuse to go to different parts of the world, to have fun, meet interesting... The interesting thing about doing the sort of books that I've done is that... if you just turn up as a place as a travel writer, you just sort of scratch the surface, you just see things. If you've got a task while you're there, you're really forced into extraordinary
You're forced into the machinery of the country almost.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, when I was in Moldova, I was forced into the sort of mafia world, but thankfully that didn't happen on this occasion.
You were involved with the mafioso?
Well, the mafia ended up running the football clubs in Moldova.
Right.
In fact, one of the guys who I went to see, who was the head of a team called FC Constructoral, has subsequently been assassinated. He was shot dead in his car, and the people said, be careful, be careful. I always thought it was people messing around, but it was, fortunately, it didn't happen when I was there. But so this was a bit more gentle, but the music world's tough.
Yeah, but not quite that tough.
Not quite that tough.
And so you went to Romania, which is a country I visited. I enjoyed my time in Romania very much. It's a lovely country, but it's kind of it's a strange country, I thought. There's a lots of, obviously, differences within the country itself, economically and socially. But they have a thriving pop world of their own, I guess, don't they?
They do, yes. Well, I thought, I'd entered a song in a song competition and got to the final of this competition. It was in Bucharest. So I thought, well, if I go there, then try and ingratiate myself with somebody who's already a star in a country, I could try and do a duet, and then I could get my hit that way. And I found this girl, Paula Selling, who's a very beautiful and successful singer in Romania, and managed to sort of sell the idea that I was a brilliant. I told I said I've had a hit. I've had a top 5 hit in England, which is true.
Yeah, no lying there.
I can make you big in Britain, sort of thing.
That's what? That's kind of cruel.
It is
because you knew there was absolutely no chance of you, Mr. Morris Minor, formerly dressed as a pixie in Holland, making this Romanian songstress.
You say that, Jonathan, but I believe you've lined up the record and you're going to play it, so people will hear her shortly. It could happen.
Maybe so. Let's, that would be lovely. I'd be pleased for you. But I think you knew when you were saying that the chances.
I did know. I knew the chances weren't great. There was a certain amount of deceit involved.
A certain amount of deceit. But did you keep your fingers crossed at the time?
I didn't. No, I didn't. No, I also felt
because I think you're wrong to get this young woman's hopes up so high.
You were. I feel another bet coming on.
All right, let's have a listen then. Let's have a listen. This is Tony with Paula Selling, you said?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And she's a beautiful young woman.
She's a lovely voice, as you'll hear.
Well, let's have a listen.
We shed a tear or two,
and now it's me and you,
and so we learn a lot
to cherish what we've got.
And now the day is at an end.
What need is there to pretend? 'Cause you're the special one when all is said and done.
The things we've done before
Don't matter anymore.
we'll trust ourselves to things.
A look, a smile, a kiss.
And now the day is at an end.
What need
I'm genuinely impressed.
Thank you, Jonathan.
I can imagine that being over the title credit sequence of a Disney cartoon. It's got that sort of...
No, I think it could happen.
You can imagine Ken Bruce grooving to that.
Yeah, we're going to bring it out as a single in Romania, I think.
Well, let's
so
start there first. That's what it
start
was.
there and build from there. But,
Wogan will go with it.
well, let's
Especially if he knows there's a pretty dark-haired girl involved, She looks a bit Irish. Tell him if you just tell Wogan she's the core sister they don't talk about,
Okay.
And she was sent to Romania, then, you're guaranteed airplay.
We'll see what we can do.
That's nice. So you're going to release it in Romania. So the story is by no means over.
No, the story, without giving too much away in the book, but I do actually say at the end, and anyway, I haven't finished living my life yet. I may have another hit, which is what made me do the thing in the first place. So the difficulty of writing this was that, of course, it takes time to have a hit, and you haven't got time if you're trying to write a book and do all the things needed. So who knows?
That sounds somewhat like an excuse.
It sounds like an excuse.
I haven't had a hit yet because they're still all out there.
This is my argument.
But, you know, listening to you play there, of course, you are a very talented guitarist. You've got a nice voice. I mean, there's no doubt about that. It sounded great. And so, presumably, part of you wanted to be a genuine kind
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I only ended up sort of in the world of comedy by accident. I did actually want to be a songwriter and a performer to begin with. And then I just realised that I wasn't quite there. You know, it wasn't going to happen. And I was messing around. But I first moved to London. I was playing and singing in wine bars. And then I'd make jokes in between, and I drifted into comedy. But I just thought, well, let's have another little go. But this time, let's just have some fun with it.
But, you know, I would be so pleased for you if it happened.
Thank you very much.
Do you write songs generally for other people anyway? Do you try and write songs for, like,
I mean, what you tend to do is you tend to stop writing songs because there isn't, you know, you've got this drawer filling up with songs, you know. But if you have to write a song, you do. Like the Big in Albania song with Tim, you know, Tim wrote these lyrics, so I had to write a tune, you know, so...
I love the thought of Tim Rice sitting down to write a song called Big in Albania, knowing that Norman Wisdom's going to croon over it, and it's, how old did you say, 87?
Yeah, Tim Rice? No, much younger. No, Norman. No, it's extraordinary. I mean, I have to say that when I first had that idea, and then it came together when we were in a football stadium in Tirana, and we're all in the band together, you know. Tim came out as well with his son and his daughter.
Wasn't Tim playing on a small toy saxophone?
He played a toy saxophone.
There must have been times when you thought, have I eaten some magic mushrooms? Is this actually happening?
Absolutely. No, it was almost like pinch yourself, is this really happening? And there is Norman, you know, Sir Norman, who you've watched as a boy in all these films. He's alongside you. He's in a football stadium in Tirana. There's these crowds cheering. And you just thought, wow, you know, life is weird.
You know what's going to be is when you die, and inevitably you must,
I'm afraid,
Tony, as indeed will I also, and Andy, and let's hope I'm the last to go. But when inevitably you die, when your life flashes before your eyes, you're going to go out laughing. You're ahead of us already. You're going to be lying there laughing, thinking, I was in a stadium with Norman Wisdom, and
it's true.
You know, Tim Rice playing a tiny toy saxophone.
Well, I suppose the thing is to keep going, is to not stop. You know, next weird thing is only 18 months away. Whatever it will be, I don't know.
We'll try and work up a bed for you.
Okay.
Maybe we should get the listeners to email us in with a new challenge for you.
I'd be up for it.
You're kind of like a perverse Anneka Rice, aren't you, really?
I think...
I don't know if that's a nice thing or not. I've no idea.
I don't know. I think I'm certainly perverse, anyway.
There's a TV show in there somewhere, the Challenge Tony.
Well, I do get asked
Maybe it could be called
things.
Challenged Tony.
But I must admit, it's no fun to do it like that. I mean, the joy of doing it for a book is that you haven't got, you know, you're kind of free to explore and to do... I mean, you must know what it's like. Well, you do know what it's like, but you go away with a crew or whatever, and it does feel like work. And this does feel like work when you're writing it up, but when you're doing it...
When you're living it.
When you're living it, it just feels like you're free.
Well, from what I've read of the book, you know, the enjoyment you got and the sense of fun you had is very successfully transmitted. So congratulations. It's a very enjoyable read. The book is called Tony Hawk's One Hit Wonderland. If you get one of the first 5,000 copies, you get the CD with the tracks on it.
Not every bookshop. I don't think if I'm allowed to say which ones do it. But,
go around. And where is the CD? Is it slipped on the cover or on the inside?
No, I haven't seen yet because it's...
Because they could go and just take that if they wanted.
Yes, I mean, I suppose theft is always an option.
Well, you know, the demographic we have.
Yeah,
I see. You know,
there's
a lot of people in caravans listening.
Fair enough.
Tony, it's always a pleasure spending time in your company. Congratulations. I always enjoy seeing you on television, but the books have entertained me very much indeed. So congratulations.
We'll play tennis sometime as well.
Yeah, we will play tennis, and let's make a bet. Let's try and play tennis with, I don't know, maybe an Albanian dwarf.
Yeah. What about a beautiful Russian ballet dancer?
Hey, let's play nude tennis.
You see, you don't need any encouragement, do you?
Well, that's a good bet. Why don't you bet us something we want to do? or rather still, let's just watch the Russian lady run around nude. Go on, I dare you to bet me that.
All right, I'm happy to bet you that.
I accept that bet. Thanks, Tony.